Going camping on the weekends can be a lot of fun, but we find that it can also be stressful. And so in today's episode, we want to talk about what are some of those stresses and how we handle them. Hey everyone, my name's Patrick.
And I'm Patty.
And we are Travels with Delaney. We love RVing. We have been doing this thing called RVing for 17 years now.
That's a long time.
It's a long time.
If you think about it, but then it seems like just yesterday.
That's right. And it has provided us so much freedom and independence to get out and explore the country.
Oh my gosh, we've seen so many cool things.
But let's face it, Patty, there are times we have been very frustrated.
Oh yeah, it can get very frustrating.
And that's honestly why we started Travels with Delaney, the YouTube channel, because we said maybe we can share some of the things we've learned along the way to try to help others out so that they don't experience those same frustrations.
Sure.
So, and that's why we do what we do.
Yep, absolutely.
So, Patty, how have you been doing?
I've been doing great. The kids are in the swing of it. My goodness, they're such a nice group of kids, and I'm getting spoiled. You know why I'm getting spoiled?
Why are you getting
Because
spoiled?
this year's group, they're a small group. Like we're talking like 70 kids, and normally we have, and it's going to be crazy next year to have more like 110.
Wow.
Yeah. So they are a small group. They're easy to work with, and they're fun. They're funny. So I'm enjoying it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't believe we're nearing the end of the year.
Oh my gosh. It just seems like it was just January.
I know.
Yeah.
And here we are in the final quarter of 2022.
Know. And it just seems like it was 4th of July and bam.
I know.
Things are just, I don't know. People always say, and you don't believe it, but like as you get older, the time speeds up. You know, days go by quickly.
Right.
Yeah, it's true. It does.
Well, I actually found something interesting I wanted to share with everyone.
Oh, yeah.
So our episode number 2, hopefully you got to hear that, on traveling in your RV with your pets. I found, I don't even know why I was looking, but the KOA locally has pet sites. Now, all campgrounds, obviously, most campgrounds are pet friendly anyway, or like out in Pennsylvania, they will only have in the state parks like certain loops that are pet friendly. But
so what makes them a pet site?
So our local KOA has these sites to where you have a fenced in area at your site for your pets. So as opposed to walking up to a dog park.
Okay.
In essence, you have like a little dog park at your site.
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah. And I kind of want to go rent one.
Yeah, just to see what it is.
Yeah, and try it out and possibly make a video for Travels with Delaney to show everybody, because I had never seen that before.
Well, no, and normally we carry our little fence that we put up, you know, if we can take it. Now we can with the new truck, but wow.
I don't know what they run, because honestly, I checked like 3 weekends and they were sold out all 3 weekends.
Oh my.
I guess I should put in during the week, although sometimes week rates are cheaper than weekend rates. But yeah, so and what it looks like is, my guess is they're not cheap, because it sounded like it was one of those upgraded sites anyway, where you get like a patio pad, with patio furniture. I can't remember if there was a fire pit, like a propane fire pit, but it said a fenced in area for your pet on your site.
That would be awesome to see.
I'm thinking what we need to do is, I think we need to talk to our friends like Jeff and Lynn up at Forest Ridge, and Kevin and Angie over at Happy Acres. I think we need to talk to them about putting in.
This is the new thing, peeps.
Yeah, we need to.
Yeah.
I think we should put in like a Truman and Bess site. They could market it as a Travels with Delaney site, and then we'll go stay, and then they can say, you know, the world famous Truman and Bess have stayed here.
We could, like, I envision like the fencing having their little faces all of a sudden here and there in their little fence.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I don't know that I could talk
any paw prints in the concrete, you know, like they stamp their paws.
I think you know, right now both Jeff and Kevin are cringing if they're listening to this, going, oh, here goes Patrick again with his harebrained ideas.
Especially Jeff.
Especially Jeff. Jeff, you know, Kevin's just getting to know us, so he has no idea what he's in for.
No.
But poor Jeff.
What is it? People call you the good influence, bad influencer or something?
Well, they say I'm a good influencer, bad influence. Yeah. But Jeff, unfortunately, has heard a lot of my harebrained ideas this past summer when we were up there.
Yeah.
And but I was like, wouldn't that be great? Like, I never thought about that you would have sites that cater to pets, not just saying, well, they're pet friendly, because again, most sites are pet friendly, but to actually have things. And we see hotels that have done this.
Right.
You know, there are hotels that will do not only just pet friendly rooms, but actually the room has amenities for your pet.
Yep.
Maybe they put in a pet bed and water and food dishes, and there's some snacks upon arrival. Why wouldn't an RV park owner take advantage of that?
That is so cool. That's a neat idea.
Yeah, because I would have to think the investment cost would be fairly low to put up some fencing.
Well, and I don't know the number, but I would think a lot of people travel with their pets.
I should have looked up that number. I believe it's a fairly high percent, like more than 50%.
We see a lot of pets. We saw cats and dogs this summer, people's pets. We even saw a pig one summer, pet pig. Remember Cooper?
We did see Cooper the pet pig. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. Cool. And it just seems like, I know we would pay a little bit extra for something like that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So it seems like it would be a revenue generator. So anyway, Kevin and Jeff, if you're listening,
take notes.
Take notes. So Patty, this week we want to talk about weekend camping.
Yep.
On YouTube, we see so many of these channels where it's full-timers, people who live in their RVs, traveling all over the US all year long. And those are very popular channels.
They are.
But I have to think that the vast majority of Americans who own RVs don't do that.
Right.
They are going out on the weekends. In fact, I always feel like we're somewhere in between that.
Right. Because I think because as a teacher, our summers we get to go.
Right.
And we don't have to worry about time, basically. We just go for those months that we're out. And it's kind of like we're semi.
Yeah, like part-time or something like that. Yeah. And we know people who are kind of jealous or envious.
They think we are full-time sometimes.
Yeah. And sometimes people think we are full-time because we go out for 6 to 8 weeks.
People are jealous too because we have that time, and I get that.
Yeah, we're very fortunate.
We are lucky.
We realize that. But the rest of the year.
Yeah.
We're weekenders. We're weekenders.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there are some struggles. Like, we love going out in the summer for 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, it's a great time. It's just so relaxing. You don't have to worry about like
getting up to go to work.
Right. And just the time. Time is a thing that's a big deal when you work.
Right.
Especially with me at school, it's really time is everything. The timing of lesson, the time of the day, time. So you don't have that in the summer.
Yeah. And so when you can go out for long periods of time, it's a totally different feeling.
Right.
Because you're not worrying about packing up and rushing home, that type of thing. And we always kind of come back to reality when we get home in late July, because then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now we can only go out on Friday and Saturday nights.
Yep.
We have to go to work Monday through Friday. Yep. And that's where some of these struggles, at least for us, and I think it would be interesting to hear what others have to say. Like, do you feel some of these same stresses we feel? And I think the first one is when we book a weekend, like we have some weekends still coming up this year where they're just like a Friday, Saturday. The first thing is, again, because you're working 5 days a week.
Yep.
I'm working 5 days a week. I do have the fortunate situation of where I do some remote work, but I still have stuff I have to get done here at home. But just trying to figure out, how are we going to pack to go away for 2 days?
Right. And it's just, and it's kind of seasonal because, if we're going out when it's still warm, it's like you have summer clothes, and then you always want to throw in some winter clothes because you just never know. And then what do you need exactly? You don't need as much. But, it's kind of like, what do I take? What do I don't take? And you got to get that. I usually try to get that done by Thursday night because I know on Friday, like you usually take me to school and then I come home, or you'll pick me up at school and we leave and go right from school to wherever we're camping at.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think if you can spread that packing out and not wait till the last minute.
Right. And I try to do that too. I try to think ahead.
Right. Patty does most of the packing of the clothes, although I grab what I want, and in like the health and beauty things out of the bathroom, I tend to worry about the food. And so I look at, like, can I start loading the refrigerator on Wednesday? Now we're fortunate. We're able to keep our RV here at the house. I keep it plugged in. The refrigerator's on all the time. If we were in a situation like we used to be years ago,
you couldn't do that.
You were not allowed to keep your RV at your house. So then you added another stress, which was, when do I go pick up the RV?
Yep.
How many days can I? And I think when we were in the subdivision,
wasn't it just a couple days?
I think you were allowed like 48 hours. Okay. So, I mean, I could go pick it up on Thursday after I got off work, but then again, we're doing everything on Thursday
Yeah,
night.
you got to get it all packed up.
Yeah. So I really like the fact that we can keep the RV here.
Right. That's
that
nice.
does help
Yep.
alleviate some of the stress.
Right.
But by working on stuff throughout the week where
Right. And usually, like if we are knowing we're going to go camping, there's certain things I will leave in the camper when we start doing weekend camping. Like, okay, I'm not going to take these shoes in and out, like these tennis shoes or my hiking shoes or certain sweatshirts. I'm leaving it in there because I know, I don't want to take it in and out all the time.
right.
Right.
And then like for us, looking at travel time. So you mentioned already that I typically will take you to work on Friday
Yep.
morning so that I can pick you up with the trailer in
Yep.
tow. That saves us. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it
But
can
some
save us
minutes.
up to an hour
Right.
potentially.
Good.
But when we're going out in the fall, winter, and spring, here in Indiana, it is getting dark.
Already it's before 8 o'clock. That's like 7:45, 7:50. It's starting to get dark around
Right.
here.
And I hate arriving at
Oh, it's so
campsites,
hard.
especially if I've never been there after dark.
Right. And just seeing where you back up. And usually I get out, I have a flashlight, I try to help with a light. It's challenging.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's why we tend to try not to go more than 2 hours away.
Right. Especially on a weekend, a weeknight,
Right.
weekend. It's just for us, 2 hours is
It's about the max,
far
2.5
enough.
maybe.
Yeah.
But even that is, so
Yeah.
pushing it.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's another stress is because we have to have time to get there and we're going to have time on the other side to get home.
Right.
And we can talk about that here in a minute. But
Well, sometimes even like we're planning our first night's meal, we're thinking ahead of time.
right.
And sometimes it's something we might pick up. Like we've been like crazy enough that we will stop. I'm thinking like at an area where we could park and go to a Panda Express and get some to
Right.
go. Or we'll pack some fried chicken that we cooked up and then we just heat it up. Or you have those, microwave meals or things like that. What are you going to do? You're trying to make sure because you're hungry and tired. We've worked all week.
Right.
And you don't want to have a big stressor of what do we eat?
Yeah, because if I pick you up and we leave the school parking lot, let's say by 3:45,
Yeah.
we have, let's say, a 2 to 2.5 hour drive. And then by the time we actually get set up, I mean, you're probably looking at what, 6:30. And
Maybe,
then
yeah.
if you've got, we have to cook dinner. So that's why I either try to plan out like ahead of time, like, is this something we can just heat up?
Yep.
Can I make something, refrigerate it, heat it up?
Yep.
Or like you said,
we'll splurge.
yeah.
And get
God
Panda.
bless the Panda Express in Perrysburg, Ohio.
Yeah.
Right near a Meyer. It's
Yeah.
right by a Meyer parking lot, so plenty of room to
Yeah.
park, and I can run over and get Panda
Yeah.
if we're headed that way.
Yeah. Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, that is again, it's another. It's just we start compounding like all these things,
Yep.
and again, we're talking about literally within 48 hours because if you leave Friday after work and then you're going to be home by Sunday night. I mean,
Right.
it may not even be a full 48 hours.
That's
so.
why we always gauge, okay, how far is it away? Because, you don't want to drive hours and hours and hours. 2.5 is plenty on a weekend trip. One of our favorite places is 45 minutes away.
Right.
And now we have another favorite place is what?
15 minutes away. Yeah.
And so, on those weekends, at least you get away, I guess. Even if it's 15 minutes, it's not being at the cabin. So.
Okay, I would love to hear if people can leave comments or whatever. I would love to hear like how far away do you go for weekend camping, and do you think it's ridiculous to go 15 or 20 minutes away, or do you actually do that?
Yeah,
I would love to know. Are we the
Right.
only ones that have? I mean, it does seem kind of silly to spend, let's say $90 for 2 nights. That's literally 15 minutes from our house, but I feel like when we go in the trailer, it feels like we're getting away.
Well, and I know for me, when we're camping in the trailer, I'm not worrying about how messy the cabin is. Do I have laundry to do? Do I have to work on the flower beds? All the things that need to get done here. It's not even in my vision. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up, So if we know we're going away, let's say on a given
Right.
weekend, when do we get the chores around the house done if we're not home on the weekend? Because that's when most people do their
Right.
chores. So that's just another element.
Right. And to think about that too, because if we're heading out for the weekend, I don't like to come back to massive loads of laundry.
Right.
I like to come back to maybe it's the laundry just from the camping weekend. And so I'll try during the week, like to do some laundry like on Tuesday and Thursday or Tuesday and Wednesday to get it so that when we leave Friday, I don't have a ton. And you
Right.
do a great job because you'll do some on Friday before you pick me up too to finish up, or you'll vacuum the house or
Right.
do different things around here, mow the lawn, whatever we need to do. But we try to We try to camp every other weekend. No, that's kind of our pattern.
We try to go every other weekend. It doesn't always work out that way, but the idea is that way we always have a weekend home to catch up
on
things, and sometimes you just need that downtime.
Right. You just need to not have that stressor.
Right.
Right.
And when you think about it, a weekend trip is short.
It is very short.
Because again, if you're not getting in till 6:30, have
Friday
dinner,
night.
it's Friday night, we will stay up later because it's Friday night.
Right.
But you're not doing a whole lot on Friday night. And a lot of times we're just too tired to even go out and make a fire ring. It's just like, yeah, let's just veg in the trailer. And so that gives you basically Saturday.
Right. Saturday to go explore, maybe like we like to, in the fall do our pumpkin getting and our mum looking and our apple picking. But
I'm just curious, you're a language arts teacher. Is that proper grammatical, like pumpkin getting?
I'm being facetious.
Okay. I'm just asking.
I'm putting some voice into my words.
Oh, okay. So nobody would fail your class if they. No. That's okay.
Because it's part of voice. You're telling your story. Ornery.
Yeah. So we go do stuff on Saturday, and then Sunday morning.
Right. Sometimes we got to think, okay, what time do we want to leave? Because that depends on what time we need to get up. And usually with the distance we have, we don't have to get up super early, but sometimes we got to make sure we're up and moving.
Well, I think that's why we don't want to go 4 or 5 hours away, because if we do,
then
we got to go
defeating the purpose.
Yeah. So then you're if you don't want to get home late on Sunday night. So I think that's where that nice, middle ground, like maybe a couple hours.
Yeah, we figured out what works for us, and that's what works, because then we're home by maybe 2 in the afternoon, 1, 2 or whatever. And we can get the trailer reset and get the laundry. And
well, a lot of campgrounds checkout time is what, noon?
Yeah.
So even if you want to push it, you maybe can stay till noon. And so, but yeah, unless we had a really long way to go, no, we don't get up early on Sunday morning. But again, you're not probably going out and doing a whole lot, because you do have to
start
packing up and hitching up and
securing everything for travel. Yeah.
Yeah. And then once we get home, we're not done. Once I back the RV,
unload stuff that we need to wash, or medicine, makeup is what I usually think of. And and some of the food we don't want to leave out there maybe. So yeah.
And it takes time. I'll be honest, by the time I back it in, I have to unhitch. And I'm speaking to the choir here. Everybody listening is like, oh,
yeah.
But they know what I'm talking about, and you by the time I get the landing gear or the stabilizers down, slide out, back out, it's just it's time. And so then next thing you know, it's Sunday night and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I got to go to work tomorrow. So I do think that's, versus, now the next best thing beyond, I guess, weekend camping is when we can take a week or two. We're again fortunate as educators. We
get those breaks.
So we get basically 2 weeks at Christmas. We get a week at spring break. That's a little bit better.
Right.
At least in terms of we can go farther.
Right. Yeah. You're not worrying about a short distance. You can go a little farther and see things.
I used to crack up at like the full timers on YouTube and be like, oh my gosh, we had a really long drive day today. We had to drive 5 hours, and we'd laugh because, when like spring break,
spring break, we're hauling tail.
Yeah, because
we want to go to the beach around here, the closest beach,
probably Myrtle Beach, Gulf Shores. Yeah.
And if you want to go and have some time to chill at the beach, you got to go.
Yeah. If we did 4 to 5 hours a day, we would spend 3 days getting there. We would have 1 day at the beach and 3 days to get home.
Yeah.
You can't do that. And so I always crack up, but I will say this in their defense.
In the summer, that's what we do. We don't want to go miles and miles and miles.
As I say, in the summer, I become one of those full-timers.
Yes, we do.
Where I'm complaining about anything over literally about 3 hours.
Yeah, we're like, oh, we gotta go 4 hours.
Yeah, literally this summer, I said to Patty one day, I'm like, oh my gosh, we have such a long day. And she's like, really? What is it? I'm like, it's like 4 hours, and I think you laughed at me.
Well, that one day you're like, we got to go so far. We got to go 10 miles.
We did. When we were at Camden State Park in Maine, we were relocating down to Maguntacook Campground.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 7 or 10 miles. And it's probably the slowest I've ever driven.
Yeah.
Because we literally stayed right up until checkout. That was the
latest we stayed, I think.
I know. We stayed, I think, right until, what was it, noon?
Noon. And we usually don't do that.
No, normally we don't wait till the last second. And then I drove about as slow as you could legally drive And I remember we pulled in at the
We're like, "Oh,
campground.
please."
I think it was about 12:20,
Yeah. Please let us
maybe
in.
12:30. I don't know. There was some traffic.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went in and they were so nice and said, "Oh, your site's ready. You can go ahead and go on in." But yeah, but normally, and so that's the difference between having time where you can take your time with the travel versus these weekends to where
you got to go. You got to move.
Right.
You don't have that luxury of being lazy.
And I'll be honest, there up until 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I always worked full time in the summer.
Right.
And so we did not go. And back then we had a seasonal site. And I think that will be a whole nother podcast.
That was fun.
Right. But I think that's a legitimate discussion.
That's a good way to go. Yeah.
And we'll save that for another podcast, the pros and cons of having a seasonal site. But if the only thing we could do would be basically weekend camping, I think I would consider that again.
Absolutely. It was fun.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I think there are things we do. Like I said, I think that, for key takeaways for people listening to this podcast is, our things that we do is we try to go out every other weekend to give ourselves a break.
Right.
We try not to go more than 2 hours.
Right.
We try to plan ahead throughout the week, try to do some of the packing or at least the meal planning.
And the food planning. Yep.
And try to get the chores caught up throughout the week.
Right.
So that when we do get home, we just don't feel overwhelmed.
Right. I don't like feeling overwhelmed.
That's right. So, let us know. I'm curious to hear what people have to say and their thoughts on, do you feel some of that pressure when you're just going out on the weekends and you have a very short period of time,
right?
And you still have everything going on throughout the week.
Have all the crazy.
Each episode, we like to provide you with what we call a Delaney pro tip, something that we've learned along the way that might help you out. And so one of the things that people tend to struggle with sometimes is their refrigerators, especially in the summer, just not keeping the food cold enough. If you have a traditional RV refrigerator, that would be one of your 2-way or 3-ways that runs off a 110 and propane or 110 propane and 12 volt. And Patty, one of the biggest things that I think we've done it ourselves in the past is people overload the refrigerator.
Packed it before so tight. And that's not good.
Right. Because you, in essence, have those metal fins at the top of the refrigerator. That's where the cold's coming through. That cold needs to be able to drop to the bottom.
And be able to move.
That's right. So if you load up every shelf in your refrigerator,
not good.
You can't, it just can't. So one of the things we try to do is we always try to leave gaps in those shelves.
Yeah, space things out.
Yep.
And we try to leave the fins, that top row, more open sometimes. Don't put the eggs up there because
they will freeze
eggs before.
Yeah.
But move things around, and we've learned where to put things and kind of space it out to get the best airflow in there. And I know you said one time sometimes people put a little fan in there.
If you can't, and even if you're still struggling, you're like, Patrick, we are leaving these gaps, but we're still not getting it. You can actually find little refrigerator fans that you can just stick in there, and that's going to help to circulate that air throughout your refrigerator, and it's going to help to again, keep that food good and cold for you. So this is a case where less actually is more.
Right. Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode 3 already. I can't believe we're on the 3rd episode.
Oh my gosh.
And as always, we could not have ever made this possible without our friend and producer, Jim Kuzman. Jim, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jim.
Jim's the one behind the scenes that goes through and edits it, makes it all nice. And
maybe someday he'll get paid.
Maybe, once we get some sponsors. But so thank you, Jim, because if it wasn't for Jim, you guys would not be getting this outstanding sound quality.
Absolutely.
And it just flows. He
does a great job.
He does what he needs to do. He makes us look good.
He does.
Somebody needs to.
Or sound good, I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Most people are glad that they can't see us. So unless you're watching the video version on our YouTube channel.
Fly today.
Yeah, we do.
Fly sporting the
Krystal Palace football jersey, but that's probably another discussion.
That's right.
All right, everyone. Again, we thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in an upcoming episode. And until next time, we'll see you
on down the road.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Travels with Delaney. We'll see you on down the road.